My name's Leo and I'm a boat builder and a sailor, and I'm on a mission to rebuild and restore the 109-year-old classic sailing yacht Tally-Ho. That project is happening in the US, but right now I'm back in England in my hometown of Bristol, where I'm mainly going to be catching up with friends and family, and then quite soon I'm going to be going on a trip with some of my friends and family sailing in Turkey, before we head back to the US and keep on with the work on Tally-Ho. But before we do any of that, it's time to meet up with my girlfriend, who you guys should remember very well, Francesca. Alright, so this is the beautiful 60-foot aluminium Bermudan cutter that we've been very kindly allowed to use here in Turkey. So she was designed by Dijkstra Naval Architects in Holland, but built here in Turkey, launched in 2013. I'd never normally be able to afford to charter something of this size or quality, but her owner has been really kind and let us use her for a ridiculously low price, just because he wants to support the project. So we're all very grateful and we're really excited to sail this beautiful boat.
I love that trick.
What trick?
This one.
I love that trick, that's just being an asshole.
Right, so Cecca and I are back in Bristol right now. We had a really great time sailing in Turkey. It's nice to be reminded what it's all about. Now, Cecca and I are very soon going to be heading back to the US, but before I do that, I'm actually having a very small operation today on this little thing on my face here, which may or may not be cancerous, but I'm told the only way they can find out is by getting rid of it anyway, so that's probably a good thing to do. So next time you see me, I may have a big gaping wound on my face. Well, as you can see, I'm back here in Squim, Washington. Still looking pretty gruesome with my black eye, but it's really good to be back. I just got here. Cecca is arriving in a couple of days, and got a load of organising and clearing up, moving back in to do. It's really nice to be here. I'm really excited to get on with the work again. And very soon you're going to be having our first 2 new volunteers coming along to help. And then I'm going to get them working on making some of the templates for the frames in the bow while I work out how I'm going to make the bow assembly and replace the one that's in there and needs to come out. Alright, so this is Jack. Thanks a lot for coming up to help out, Jack.
Yeah, of course.
Can you tell us where you're from and what you do there?
Yeah, I'm from New York and Ireland, where I learned how to sail and also do knife making there.
Cool.
Yeah.
So a bit of metal work as well as
metal work and woodwork and also sailing work. So it's kind of a like a mix of those things kind of brought me here, which is cool.
Cool. Well, that should set you up pretty well for working here, hopefully. Yeah. Cool. You've actually just come from doing some sailing, haven't you?
Yeah, I was just 3 months from the Caribbean down to French Polynesia, so I got some good experience there.
Yeah, it sounds like quite a trip.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, look forward to working with you.
Yeah.
Cool. Cheers, man.
Thanks.
All right. So this is Joe, and Joe's also come up to help from Ohio, right?
That's right.
Thanks a lot for coming up.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Can you tell us a bit about what you get up to at home and so on?
Yeah, I've been teaching English and painting houses for a while, and I also lived in Turkey. And when I was there, I was studying. I had a year off. I read Moby Dick.
Okay.
And so we got into the whole wooden boat thing.
Yeah. And you've been doing a bit of woodwork. You built a small boat, haven't you?
Yeah, a friend in Turkey taught me how to build these stitch and glue kayaks. So I made a kayak and a canoe. My interest started there. Been doing woodworking, using mostly hand tools.
Oh, well, hopefully you enjoy working on the Tally Ho for a bit.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Great things happening.
So now it's time for me to start working on the shapes of the bow assembly pieces. So I've made a few sketches of the configuration and the way that I want them to fit together. Unfortunately, I'm not able to make the bow assembly in exactly the same way that it was made originally, simply because it's very, very difficult and time consuming to get pieces of timber that big these days, especially in exactly the right shape and without boxed heart in. The original pieces do have boxed heart in and they have lasted very well, but that has caused the checking, which is the reason why I need to replace them now. So I'm very keen to avoid boxed heart if at all possible, and that's the main reason why I've had to get smaller pieces, and I'm going to be building the bow assembly out of 4 pieces instead of 3 pieces as it was built originally. Having one extra joint does in theory reduce the strength of this part of the boat very, very slightly, but I would say that is more than offset by the fact that we're using very strong, very clear grained purple heart, which is a really good timber. It's completely free of boxed heart, so it's very stable, and the long joints and the size of the timbers that I'm using should mean that this piece is going to be really, really strong. So now I'm going to start transferring my drawings from the paper plan onto the lofting floor, and to start with I just make marks on the lofting floor on post-it notes while I make sure all the measurements are correct and that they match up with the length of the timbers that I've actually got outside. Then I can easily sort of move them around a little bit to get them all in exactly the right place, and then I'll start to draw them in on the floor itself. Right, so after a lot of measuring, drawing, redrawing, rubbing out, and sort of jigsawing pieces together, I finally come up with my final design for the construction of the bow assembly. And that's now all drawn on the lofting floor, so it's pretty much ready to start taking templates off. But before we do that, we're going to take out the old bow assembly out of the boat, and that means springing the planks out, so we've got room to pull it out. So we're going to have to cut all the frame heels first, so they're not attached to the forefoot and the stem anymore, and then cut all the hood end fastenings which attach the front of the planks into the stem, and then use wedges and props to actually spring out those planks and frames and give us enough room to pull the whole bow assembly out. So earlier on, the guys put up all these props underneath the planks to hold up the bow of the boat once we got the centerline out, and now they've just been cutting the heels off of all the frames in this bow section, and now we're cutting the screws that are holding on the hood ends, that is the end of the planks, onto the stem so that we can free it all up and pull the centerline out. So we've put a lot of props up underneath the planks of the boat, and we're hoping that that is going to support the front of the boat while we take the stem and the bow assembly out. In fact, we've already taken the top part of the stem off. That came out really easily yesterday evening, and so today we're going to try and get the main part of the bow assembly out. That will of course clear the way for the new bow assembly, and that is all drawn out on the lofting floor now. So as soon as we got this out, we're going to start making some templates and cutting out the new pieces. So yeah, I think what we want to do is we need to spring out the planks. So we managed to get the bow assembly out, and I was really pleased with how that went. And Joe and Jack have braced up the props so that it all should be pretty secure and sturdy while we start making the new bow assembly. And since we got back, we've also been doing quite a lot of stuff to improve the sort of accommodation here. So Cecca does a lot of the cooking when there's volunteers here, and she asked me to improve the sort of food storage here because this was all just open and it would all get dusty and it was hard to get stuff at the back. So I made these drawers which make that all a lot easier, and got a fancy new toaster which is very exciting, and we've also been improving the sort of accommodation for volunteers quite a lot as well. We also got some new chicks since we got back. So these little guys are growing up fast, need to build a bigger house for them pretty soon. Hopefully they're going to grow up and give us some nice fresh eggs.
Come on, Tina. Oh God.
What are they called then?
Nina, Tina, Joni, Janice, Stevie and Dolly. Great ladies.
That's all we got time for right now, so thanks a lot for watching, and a massive thank you to everyone who's donated or otherwise supported the Tally Ho project. It makes a huge difference, and it means I'm able to take the time to make and edit these videos, so I really appreciate it. I'll see you next time. Cheers.